I understand that Tom Brady has, for 2 decades, instilled a righteous amount of fear in the opposition, especially if it is a close game late and Tom Brady has the ball. And I would be lying if I didn't say, as a fan of a different team, as a Chiefs fan, that just last season, when the Chiefs just needed one stop to go to the Super Bowl in overtime, but Brady had the ball, and it was 3rd and 10, 3rd and 10, 3rd and 10. I never felt comfortable. And it's part because of the Chiefs defense, but mostly because the greatest of all time had the football. But he isn't even the guy he was this past January, much less the guy he was over the last 2 decades. What Tom Brady is going to do and what he does better to this day than just about any quarterback in football this side of Russell Wilson, he will not make the critical mistake. He understands time, score, situation, strengths of the team, and so he gets that how good the defense is, what a tactical advantage they have, and that if he plays a clean game, they are going to be not impossible, but nearly impossible to beat, especially against inferior competition. But do I fear that Tom Brady is going to drive the ball 85 yards for a game-winning touchdown? Not in 2019, I don't. In the last month, they have three drives that were not on a short field for a touchdown. Less than one a game, they've been able to take a regular drive, kickoff, touchback, drive it down the field. Good punt, drive it down the field. They couldn't do that at all against the Cowboys. They did it once against Philadelphia. They did it 0 times, pardon me, once against Philadelphia, very beginning of the second half. And this idea that he can do it late in games but is choosing not to early in games is an absurdity. If Tom Brady were able to execute an 11-play, 72-yard touchdown drive with regularity, he would do it with regularity because it's what they want to do every time they touch the football. And by the way, Pat fans, I think, are starting to acknowledge it. What this team is this year as opposed to even just 1 or certainly 2 years ago when he was league MVP.
Nick, I am so with this anonymous executive. I totally agree with what he said. And you're right. Brady's numbers are down across the board from last year. And last year's weren't spectacular.
Nope.
They were very good, not spectacular. They're down in every category. However, there was a time last season, there were 2 times, in fact, when we could have looked at it and said, Tom Brady's done, and many did say he's done. He had a 5-game stretch in the middle of the season where he had 4 touchdowns in 5 games. Yep. 2 of those games, no touchdowns. 2 of the last 3 games last season, he had a total 2 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. All right, he had 126 yards in a game. I think it was their second to the last game against Buffalo. So there was no reason. He did come on with a big game in the last game of the season, but there was really no reason to believe going into the playoffs that Tom Brady could do what he did. Heck, you mentioned the game against Kansas City, the AFC Championship. In that game, he didn't look that great. Threw for a lot of yards, but had 1 TD, 2 interceptions.
And threw a pick that was waved off that could have ended the game.
But I don't remember that. It was waved off. It didn't happen. All right? But what happens in overtime? When the chips are on when everything's up, has to be delivered, he completes 4 passes for 60 yards, a terrific pass to Gronk. He looked like a different quarterback in that stretch. So I do believe in Tom Brady until I'm proven otherwise. And I also like that N'Keal Harry and Mohamed Sanu. Now, Harry's back. And I'm not saying he's, Randy Moss or anything. He's not a deep threat, but he is at least a legitimately good wide receiver, okay? And then Sanu will be back for the playoffs if he doesn't get hurt again. And so I think—
You have more weapons.
Yes, so I do agree with this executive wholeheartedly.
Nick, a couple weeks ago, the Patriots were playing the Cowboys. You had the Cowboys beating the Patriots.
When the Patriots were
playing the Eagles, right. The next week or 2 weeks later, you had the Patriots beating the Cowboys. Is that correct?
No.
I got everything wrong. My point is, one week you believed that the Patriots were going to lose, and then the next week you believed, you know what, forget it. Same division they're playing, Patriots are going to win. Because somehow in the deep, dark bottom of your heart, you still sort of know that at the end of the day, the Patriots are 10-1 for a reason. They're going to pull it out.
Their defense and their coaching staff.
But aren't we to a point where you want to see it before you'll believe it? Where until they lose, they're going to keep winning?
No, but this
Don't we owe them that?
Hold on a second. These are different questions. The question of Do you still fear the Patriots? Of course. Do you think the Patriots can win the Super Bowl? I'm not picking them right now, but of course they can. But do I think it's going to be because Tom Brady has one more or two more or three more all-time Pantheon moments, down 4, 2.5 minutes left, bad weather, drive? No, I don't. I have seen no evidence that at 42 years old he can do it. And what we have
was there much evidence last year, though?
Last year he was only 1 year removed from his MVP campaign. Last year he was a top 10 quarterback. He was bad in comparison to other Tom Brady years. Can we show the numbers quickly? This year he's bad in comparison to just quarterbacks. The yards per attempt are abysmal. The passer rating is awful. Worse than 3 guys who have been benched and 1 guy in Daniel Jones who's a rookie finding his way through things. And the weapons do matter. You know what I mean? Like the fact that the Mohamed Sanu, they are eagerly awaiting his return, speaks to their dearth of weapons. And by the way, Tom Brady didn't play no great game in the Super Bowl. You mentioned that in the AFC Championship game, he had the amazing drive despite the turnovers. In the Super Bowl, the defense won that game. The Rams scored 3 points. Brady made 1 great play to Gronk to lead to the 1 touchdown. But it is this, and there's no shade on Brady. He's done it. He's having the greatest age 42 season ever because nobody has age 42 seasons. But no, I don't see this coming. And the only reason we would see it coming is because of you're almost conditioned to say, well, Brady will pull it out. Manning won a Super Bowl, Jenna, in 2015. He didn't.
Not because of
better than Manning at that point.
He's much better than Manning, but they didn't win because of Manning.
Right.
They won because of the defense.
All right, let's move on to the Eagles now. When Philadelphia gave Carson Wentz a 4-year, $128 million extension back in June, there was no question Wentz was the quarterback of their future. Fast forward to the end of November, with the Eagles sitting at 5-6 and on the verge of missing the playoffs, and the Carson conversation has changed. Just ask former Eagle Michael Vick.
He will fail in Philadelphia. I think, just the bar has been set so high, by Nick Foles. And regardless of when he came in, he did what he did. They won the Super Bowl. Now, it's a ceiling that's been set. And along with Carson Wentz's character, which sometimes has been questioned, by his team, by his teammates, and the public, it just makes